I don't know how to describe it other than like a demon type of sound.
But it's silhouetted, hulking, every bit of 5.5 feet wide, 13 to 14 foot tall, pitch black.
The one thing that ran through my mind when I had this encounter was I don't have a big enough gun.
Your host, two-time witness and field researcher for more than 40 years, William Jevning. Welcome to Creek Devil.
Hello everyone, welcome to another edition of Creek Devil. Tom, would you like to introduce our guest today?
Absolutely, it'd be a pleasure. This is Don. Don, you're a member of the Navajo Nation, and you and I talked a couple of days ago, and you had some very interesting sightings and experiences with what we call Creek Devil or Bigfoot. And I think what I'm going to do is I'm just going to hand the mic to you and fill us in. What's going on? Tell us about the sightings and some of the things going on there.
Oh, yeah. Hello, everybody. My full name is Donovan Yowzy. I come from an area called Monument Valley. It's right on the Utah-Arizona border. And, I'm from around that whole area. And our whole life, we always had weird encounters that we could never really explain. So, growing up, we're told not to whistle at night. We're spanked if we are outside playing. But, a lot of the older we got, the older ones started leaving. And some of the stuff started, the activity started kind of going away. But let's see here. My first time seeing Bigfoot, man, I was 18 years old. This was probably like 2008, 2007. I think I was 18. And, like a lot of us as kids, we were kind of rowdy. We didn't really listen. A little rebellious. So like about 7 of my family members, we got together. And I had an uncle that came back. He's a miner out there in northern Nevada. He came back and he had this big flashlight. And he's like, I want to see something tonight. Because I have more stories of skinwalkers. We grew up with them, and the windows trying to open, the scratching on the window, slapping on the trailer, jiggling on the doorknob, running on the roof, the foul smell, and you hear a man and a female chanting outside. They're doing their death chants. So the skinwalkers. So we always had to worry about that every day. We had to be locked inside, and we were armed, but that was our last resort. And if the men were home, they would bust out the guns. They would start shooting. But when it was just us kids, we always resort to prayer. But he came. He was raised off the reservation, so I was like, all right then, be careful what you wish for. Might just come true. He just laughed. I was like, okay. And we left around 12 o'clock at night. And like about 40 minutes into the hike, I gotta get more pictures for you guys and send it every exact location. Yeah, you have to get. Only way you get there is by 4x4. So this was like about 3 miles out of the community of Halchita, Utah. This is by Mexican Hat, Utah, right on the San Juan River, just right off the river. So that river comes all the way from the San Juan Mountains over there in Colorado. So it comes all the way down. So it's like a highway once you take it. And we're right around Bears Ears area too. It's pretty nice, beautiful country. It's really rugged. There's a lot of ups and downs. Yeah, excuse me. I'm a little nervous. Don't mind me.
No, you're Don. You're doing fantastic. I wanted to say,
I never.
Well, you're amongst friends here, so.
Yeah. Never really shared this like out there with anybody. So like with a huge audience like you guys, only shared this story like around campfire, only when I felt like I wanted to. yeah, other than that, I like to listen to everyone's stories.
Well,
So,
virtually right now we got a campfire going. You're one of the guys in the campfire, and we talked a little bit
right.
about the terrain there, absolutely how stunning it is, and the
Yeah.
hiding places for these creatures. So,
It's everywhere.
tell us about maybe one of your first sightings that you had. We'd be
Oh
interested.
yeah. Sorry, I'm leading you guys into it. I just got a little nervous right now. So, all right. So 45 minutes into it, we're going down this trail that I run down, and we started hearing this weird, a weird growl. Like nothing that I cannot copy it, nor did I hear anything like that living replicate that noise, that growl, that weird. It sounded like a humming, but a growl, but a breathing at the same time. It was strange, and we looked over to our left, and about 100 yards there's a hill, and we saw like a yellow, like a gold eye shine, yellow eye shine, and it was still growling at us, and it started pacing back and forth, a little bit walking. And then at first I was like, probably a bobcat cougar. And everyone, they're just standing there. Like, well, I'll go look up. I'll go check it out. This is my backyard. Only thing I gotta worry about is donkeys if they run after you. So I was just walking up there, and instantly I was just staring at it, getting closer, say about 70 yards in. I was just talking to myself. I was just like, all right, it's not a man, because I can see the silhouette. My uncle's flashlight was pretty bright at the time. I was getting closer, and everything was just getting thrown out my mind, like that I understood. Things that I understood, it was slowly going out. I was like, it's not a man, but I can see a head. I see shoulders. And then I was like, it's not a skinwalker, because skinwalker, I've seen it before. Their eyes don't reflect the light, because it's man's eyes underneath that skin. So, and as I got closer, within 50 yards, and I noticed that his eyes was huge, and it was like it was further apart than average. Comparing it to a man. And I noticed that it had no neck. His head was pointy, and its shoulders were huge. It was wide. And then I realized that it was fur. It was red. It matched with the sand in the area. And it stopped pasting. And it was looking right at me, and it started doing another weird growl, like another low pitched, creepy growl. It was staring right at me, and I stopped, and I was like, "What am I looking at? What is this?" It's not in our language you call Yana Dloshi. I was like, "It's not Yana Dloshi. It's not a man." Its eyes is reflecting back. This is a huge person, because it was standing like kind of on the other side of the hill, but I can see its torso, and I was just realizing proportions of it. It was not right. And it started, as it was still growling, everything, I was still in my mind running, just running. I was just looking at it. I stopped, and it looked like it was swaying back and forth. And for some reason, I don't know, it just sounded like a female, maybe, I don't know. It was just weird. I was just standing there, and then it slowly backed away. It was taking steps backwards, because I can tell from the flashlight, the light that it cast on his torso, went to his chest, then the light like to his head and his eyes. I can barely see it. It was looking at us still, then it was gone. So they're like, "What is it?" My family, "What is it?" And I turned around and I just had my head down. I was walking back towards the light. And I was like, what am I going to tell these guys? I'm like, what am I going to say? They're going to think I'm crazy. Like, I've never seen anything like this. Just as I got there, they said, what is it? I just told them, I'm not sure. It has yellow eye shine. And the closest thing that I can think of the growling would be a bobcat, That's the only thing I told them. Probably a bobcat. I'm not sure. And I told them, let's keep going. And we kept going. So there's a lot of washes. If you look on Google Maps, all these washes drain out into creeks from the highland, Black Mesa, Chusca Mountains. They all drain. It's like a huge drain system. So it's like a labyrinth, like a maze. It crisscrosses. So it drains all into the San Juan from there. So we're walking along in there, and we started going back towards the little community of Halchita. The whole entire time, I was just thinking about it, and for some reason, like I had the feeling like I was in the wild, and like whatever I seen, I feel like that thing's up on the little mesas, along the cliffs, following us. And then now and then be like little pebbles falling down on us because we're inside the creek. Some parts are really tight. So the people are like, hey, do we, or my cousins are like, did a lot of people come back here? I told them no, just wild dogs, but all the wild dogs started dying off for some reason here. So we got within 4 miles of the community of Halchita, and my little cousin, he was 14 at the time. He was a little naughty guy. He got within 60 yards with us from me. I was in the front, and I looked down, just looking at the rocks because I had a flashlight, but it wasn't that strong as my uncle's. Then I looked up, and I see my little cousin running back towards me. I shined the light at him. He was reaching out with both hands. He was running. He was pretty fast, too. He went and hugged me. He ran to me. He went and grabbed me, and he said that the skinwalker was trying to take him. I was like, what do you mean? He was shaking. He was like a little naughty kid. I never seen him act like that. I never seen him since act like that before. He was holding me. I was like, what do you mean? What do you mean? What does it look like? What does it look like? I asked him. He said, huge red orangutan walking on all fours down the road towards him, was reaching out, gonna snatch him. And he turned around and he just ran back towards us. He got ahead of us like 60 yards, probably even more than 60 yards. It was pretty dark too, but we're on the road. So he was
terrified, right?
Yeah. And then my cousin that's a year younger than me, his name was Adrian, and his nickname was wait, no, I'm not gonna share his nickname with y'all, but I told him, I was like, Adrian, let's go. We ran, we went flying up that road, and we kept running, and then all we ran into was a smell. It was a familiar smell because growing up, we know that when we smell like a death, and like the foul smell, that's either they say the skinwalker, because they practice cannibalism in their magical rituals, to gain power. So they go up and take dead bodies out of the grave. So that's one of the stories. Then the other one saying that just basically the boogeyman. So we have like our language is called yeti in our language. So it's basically a big man. The big man. I guess he's the boogeyman at night. If you whistle, he'll come and take the bad kids, or he'll come and take the whole family. Depending on how and where, I guess. We have like a lot of stories on the reservation, different corners of the reservation. We have different stories with him. Some are good, some aren't good, and some are just plain bizarre.
Well, let me
in
ask
our
you
case,
this.
Yeah.
I didn't mean to interrupt, but in the
Oh, no,
reservation,
you're good.
so you share stories back and forth, right? And do some of the stories kind of correspond with each other? In other words, yeah, I heard that too.
Yeah.
That's the same thing I experienced. Okay.
Yeah. Yes. Yes. Yeah, that smell, going back to that smell, it just stopped us from running full speed. I started gagging, and he started covering his mouth, and he started gagging, and the community lights of Halchita was kind of blinding, casting light over it, kind of like the what do you call it? The light pollution.
Oh yeah,
couldn't
photon
really
pollution.
see.
Yeah.
Yeah. We were just approaching the community, and we couldn't see anything. And now to this day, when I go back to visit my uncle, they just locals there saying that they just see huge eyes that's taller than the street signs, the stop signs there. I guess the eye probably, like they say, you see eyes about 2 feet higher than that stop sign. I gotta go measure it out next time I get there. And then they hear whistling at night, and then something's huge running on the rooftop to rooftop, digging in the trash cans, and some dogs missing. Now that's going on right now out in the community of Halchita.
Don, let me ask about
Yes,
the
sir.
dogs missing, because that's something we've run into. Actually, we have somebody up in upstate New York who's has a similar situation. Do you ever hear something taking the dogs? Do you ever hear the dogs, I hate to say it, but being dispatched, being killed, or do they just vanish?
Oh yeah, you just hear it right now in the community of Kaibito. Right now, you hear like a huge battle is going on. Then after the battle, you hear one like one dog cry out, and then the rest are hiding, and it's just quiet. So there's like a lot of dead horses, just bone carcasses, because I go walking with my son and my German Shepherd. Yeah, so we just see a bunch of dead livestock up on the creek, dead dogs.
Okay, so you get the dead animals, but you also hear them being dispatched, being killed by these creatures. Okay.
Yeah. I have a night vision, but my wife's saying that I can't go without a gun. I can't go without 2 people with guns. So I'm pretty stuck inside the house. but yeah, that was my first encounter up in Halchita, Utah.
Well, can I ask a question here?
Oh yeah, go
ahead. This was actually in Utah then.
Yeah, southeastern Utah.
Yeah.
San Juan County.
Yeah, I'm quite familiar with it. I actually went to my first university was in Utah, and we did our archaeological field school down in the Four Corners region. But yeah, I'm real familiar with that area. When you said Mexican hat and such, and that is very rugged down there, extremely rugged.
Yeah, exactly. There's a lot of hiding places. Like the locals, we say that we're second place hide and seek champions, and you all know who's first place. Yeah, so that was a pretty wild encounter. Yeah, I didn't really think of it until like probably my late 20s. I started like, okay, what did I really see? Because I can't really explain that. Just the other ones I can explain, like seeing a witch, like a shapeshifter. We call them a Yenagloshi. I've seen that before. It's just a little different. Some people seeing them in different forms. I guess like the person that what they want to change into, they'll change into, but maybe you'll look a little horrible with human in that male proportions. Yeah, and yeah, like I was like 18, so I wasn't really scared at the time, but you know, I was just used to it growing up. And like the first time I actually seen do I just tell about Bigfoot? Or you guys want to hear about Skinwalker too?
Oh, this is your show.
yeah.
Whatever you want to talk about. I did have a quick question for you. You
Yeah.
triggered something with me when you first saw the eye shine. You said you were concerned that it might be donkeys. I think I know where you're going with this, but tell us what the concern is with the donkeys.
When you go running, hiking, it's just donkeys. Their eye shine is teal blue, kind of in a way, like a teal. For yeah, and then but
they can kick, right?
Yeah, they can kick, they can bite, but if you don't bother them, they won't bother you. But they'll make their noise, let you know that they're there. Say, hey, I'm right here. Don't bother me. But
yeah, that's all. I just had a question if that's what the concern was. You don't want to get kicked by one.
Oh yeah. I used to run through there at night to the same area. Like I was saying, it's my backyard. I was able to run on that road when there was no moon. And I run right up next to a donkey one time. And I don't know if he was sleepy or he just, he didn't bother me. As soon as I passed him, he started doing his little donkey call. And then I was like, I thought I seen something dark right by the road. I just kind of ran on the other side so I could make room. When I passed, I realized it was a donkey. But it's not safe though. It's not recommended running at night when there's no light on. But it was my backyard. I wasn't really afraid of anything. Not since I was a kid. My family, our history is pretty. It's not a nice history. It's a pretty sad history because my grandparents, they were medicine men and women. They were really good at their craft, I would say. By day, they would bless people, and then by night, they would shapeshift and go back and, hurt them. So they would come back to them and then give them whatever, then in between there, they would make their own moonshine, and they would bootleg too, and they were alcoholics on the side, so it was just like a pattern for my great grandparents. And then until they met this one white man out in Keyenta, Arizona. So it happens that they're going there to the trading post to get what they need. Riding on a wagon from northern Monument Valley area to Keyenta was like a 2-day journey. But they would make it there with their kids. And then they ran into a white man speaking perfect, Diné language, our language, sharing the gospel. And from there, they never heard anything like that, like you can be reborn, forgiven. So they changed their whole life around, and they had like about, I think it was like 14 kids, 12 kids. So once they changed their life around, they built a church, and the whole family, my family, we come from an area 12 miles north of Miami Valley called Douglas Mesa. And, like my clan comes from up there around there. We're the Yucca clan. So we have 4 clans. We're a maternal society. So that's where my mom's clan comes from, is that area. And so happens that they're one of the top medicine men and top medicine women in the country, or the whole reservation. So they have another society within societies. We're really secretive and closed off to anybody that's not Diné. And then, like, if we speak out, like me right now, sharing the story with you, is people shun it. They say, don't do that. If you share this will happen, this and that. But I say that we have every right, to share the story. We have every right to expose darkness, because they're just using their own fear, your own fear against you. Because then it goes back to magic. and dark magic, and it's pretty gruesome history, you know. Like,
Well,
really,
I really do. I think
yeah,
all of us appreciate the fact that you're kind of stepping out and sharing this with us. So I just want to thank you for that. And I didn't mean to cut you off, but it sounds like you're getting ready to talk about another
yeah,
encounter you had with one of these. And
yeah.
you don't call them Sasquatch. I apologize. You and I. What is the common word that you use to describe a Bigfoot?
Oh, we call them a yeti. So
That's interesting.
yeti.
Very.
So almost sounds
Okay.
like yeti, huh?
Yeah, it does. It sure does.
Yeah, yeah. Just a little different, yeti, but we call it so. So means for big. So yeti is like for more of an ancient term, you know. It's just like it's just always been there, you know, from the beginning. Because like if you go back to our history, our cultural history, I hear you guys as a podcast, you know, you guys like Native American cultural, you know, history about it between us and him. You know, this is a little bit of us, but nowadays people call it Navajo mythology. But if you really research it, you know, it could be real, you know, because back in the day, there wasn't many Navajo people. There wasn't any Diné people at the time. There was just a few tribes here in this country, in this land. So whenever a female would give birth, they said the monsters would come because they can smell when a female gives birth. So he would come and eat the babies right away. Every woman that gave birth, until finally this lady, she gave birth to twins. You know, she raised them up, and then they had some help, and then they went and destroyed almost all of them. So it goes all the way back to that being. They didn't kill them off. They had pity for him. You know, they let them live. And we just had an agreement, you know, that we can kill you off if we really hunt you, and we had a lot of help. So if you like research the Navajo mythology, like this is that the son gave us the weapon, you know, the father. So it's like if you really look at it as science fiction, it just sounds like a science fiction weapon that was given to us. So so they were called the Twin Warriors, and so they buried those weapons underneath the San Juan River. So it's like the San Juan River is pretty sacred too. Yeah. Any questions?
You have a long-standing history then in the Diné mythology. We realize there's more truth than fiction to the mythology that white people refer to it as. So you're amongst friends here, but the history goes back far through your history of the Diné people, correct?
Yeah, our history is an oral history. So like a lot of times, like the older ones say that the Bible is true, you know, because we, like a lot of our mythology, our stories that are passed down is just basically almost the same thing as the Bible. You know, similarly, we had people that had 6-fingered, you know, an extra digit on each hand, extra toe on each foot, you know, just like not natural looking beings, you know, and it gets the history on that part, it gets pretty heated topic debate within our other surrounding tribes, our other brother and sister tribes. You know, we're alike, but we're not really alike because a lot of their history is a little bit different from us, and it causes a lot of controversy. So that's why you don't really have much of a Diné people talk, you know, or speak out, because we don't really want to, you know, get other people upset. You know, we just like it's just a lot of people that would get them upset, because it all goes back to Anastasia, what they were doing, you know, how bring about the destruction of their society. You know, they they're doing pretty crazy things. And one of the stories that we had was while they were in the kivas in the cliffs, they were doing black magic. They opened the portal, and then one of those beings they described probably like a Bigfoot-like came out and started eating, destroying their whole ancient society. Then at the same time, I keep bothering my grandpa because we had cliff dwellings around us. What happened to them? What happened to them? He wouldn't tell me until like a year later. He said that God, he told us that we shouldn't live like that inside of caves, and it's not right for man to be there, because if he lives in the caves like that, he's going to start doing things that is not natural. So they started kidnapping the neck kids up in there and started sacrificing them and doing they would mix like the Aztec, they had a sacred ceremony called man corn. So instead of beef, they would make the tamales with human meat and corn. So they would use that for their sacred rituals, because the human meat, the human blood was so sacred. So I guess he told me that. Oh yeah, go ahead.
The Anasazi guys are referred to the ancient, what they're referred to as the ancient ones. As the Anasazi is what he's talking about. And I think what you're referring to is when they had the Aztecs actually came up, and Tom, you and I have talked about this. Aztecs actually came in, and they have proof down in Chaco Canyon that there was cannibalism going on, and the Aztecs are the ones that invaded the area and started affecting the cultural aspects of the Anasazi and the people that were living in that area. And so
slaves,
yes, that's what he's referring to.
Yeah, so like a lot of the stories that goes back to that. Yeah. What were you going to say, Tom?
No, I was going to say, that was, we talked about that, and that's the high cliff dwelling, so you could see way off in the distance. Here they come, time to go.
Yeah. Well, I think I told you, I actually took my daughter up there to make some verde, and you can appreciate this. I had asked them, because they were going on, they were just all happy. And I'm like, why in the world would people that used to live up on top of the mesas all of a sudden decide that they were going to close themselves up into caves? And that does not represent a happy living to me. They were afraid of something, because they still had lookout posts on top of the mesas where they were watching for those Mexican Indians that were coming up from the south, that were coming in there to enslave them and cannibalize them, is exactly what they were watching for. And as well as I do, that the Anasazi culture just finally disappeared. I mean, they just disappeared from the areas that they were in. So it's really a very sad situation. Wonderful culture that was basically, I'm not going to say destroyed, but it became incorporated into other native tribes.
Yeah, that's what I was bugging him, because I understood like just the basic of it, and he finally opened up. He said that God said it's not right to be like that. They're sacrificing humans and using witchcraft. Then I guess he told me, in his own words, he said that the holy people, I guess he said they flew down like on silver shields, like so shiny. They came down to our ancestors and told them, said, hey, they told them, they said, hey, go round them up. Go round them up. I'm giving this land to you. You're going to take over. You're going to watch this. Don't pervert Mother Earth. Don't be doing things like what they're doing. I'm angry with them. So what he said was that our people were fed up with it too. Our kids being taken. So as our people started an offensive counter against them everywhere they were, because they were value, because of trading. They used to trade with us. And, you know, as we went and pursued them, I guess they said that they seen the UFO, you know, the shields come down and started beaming them up at the same time, the ones that were trying to run away. And he told me that, and then as I got older, I went over to a Weber Basin Job Corps in Ogden, and I met this Paiute guy. And he told me the same story. He confirmed me the same story. He said that his dad told him that they started doing witchcraft in the Kivas up in there, and they started using child sacrifice from Navajo kids. You know, their meat, their blood. And then he said that the Navajos got angry and started attacking them everywhere and started chasing them. It was an all-out assault on the Anastasia. And he said that his dad, they survived by running to the Paiute, changing their identity, changing the way they dress and their culture just to be a part of the Paiute. You know, that's when he shared with me. So it's pretty out there, I know, but, you know, like, there's a lot of mysteries that surround the Anastasias. So, like, some reason, you know, the teaching still survived into the shape-shifting. You know, the Yana Loshi is what we say. Because in that society, you have to give your loved one, the one you love on earth, and if they know which one, you know, I guess the spirits around, they know who you love on this world the most. And once you give them up to them, then they initiate you and they show you the final step where you shapeshift, you fly, and astral project, and then they teach you all these spells. You know, all these spells and everything is all brought by chanting. You know, the life and death is at the power of the tongue. It's true. You know, for us, we're taught to pray for good, pray for this, don't ever pray for bad. And then in that culture, the skinwalker culture is opposite, just day and night. So that teaching kind of carried on, and that's the only way, like, a lot of them would. So, like, a lot of them, some people actually didn't want to give their own loved ones. So that person that's teaching them everything ends up placing a spell on that person. And so they go crazy and they die, or they just lose their sight, or they can't talk, or they can't walk. You know, it's real. You know, like I really don't shake medicine man's hands because, you know, if you really think about it, you know, like, let's say the best terms I can describe it to you, like the strugglings here between, you know, the medicine man. Some may be actually good, you know, some may be, but some of them know, they all know the light and the dark. So most of the time I'm not shaking their hand, you know, I'm just staying away from them. Like, the best way I can describe it to you is like, in a weird way, is like Jedi Knights, you know, the Sith, then the good side, the good guys. You know, there's a spirit, there's a force behind them, but that's a whole nother topic. So fast forward to 13 years old, I barely reached manhood at the time, and I was pretty tough boy. I was bullied a lot. I was jumped a lot in school, you know, picked on, so I wasn't afraid of anybody. And the moon was out. My bad. The moon was out. It was probably like around 10 o'clock, and we had to get something out from the truck. I went out with one of my uncles. He was 4 or 5 years older than me. He walked out in front of me. I walked out just to get some fresh air. And then I heard my grandpa, he had a little old school single cab Chevy, and something heavy jumped off it. I heard the springs make that noise, like weight came off it, and we both looked to our right, and we seen something coming down, about to land on the ground, but it stopped 2 feet above the ground. And I looked, and I noticed that its legs was like a coyote going up to the torso, his belly button, I started to see a human torso, and I saw rows and rows of turquoise and silver jewelry, fine jewelry around his neck, a lot of them. And I saw his hands, saw sterling silver and turquoise on all his fingers. And then his wrists, he had a lot of the bow guard and a lot of silver and turquoise. Now I was making my way up with my eyes, and I saw I had same thing, the earrings, just like a lot of bling, And he had on both around his arm, his armpit, he had a Navajo blanket on, and he had a coyote pelt on his head, and he had a white face like a paint. Yeah, and he was just standing there. I was just looking at him, just like, it didn't really register. I was just like, what is this? Just for real? I felt like a dream in a weird way. I was just staring, and then I took a deep breath, and less than a split of a second, it just went, whoom. It just was gone down the road. And that was one of the first times I actually seen the skinwalker, like probably like 15 feet away from me. But yeah, that's pretty.
Can I interrupt you just a second? I'm sorry. I could talk listen to you tell skinwalker tales all day long, but I am curious about one thing. Was the encounter that you had the first time with Bigfoot the only one that you ever had, or I know that the Navajo tribe has had a history with that and the little people. So I'm real fascinated with that.
Oh yeah. See, fast forward. I met my wife when I was like 28. So she comes from Navajo Mountain area. So if you Google it, it's magical. It's like a dome mountain that raises up 10,644 feet. And it's pretty much undiscovered. There's a lot of herbs. We go up there for medicine. And it's also, we're told to keep out of there. And we're supposed to pray before we enter there because there's a guardian there. And they're really not open with why. They always tell me not to go up there, but eventually I'm gonna go up there. So there's this spring that comes from the mountain right underneath the foot of the mountain. A nice, beautiful spring. And up there, wait, hold on. I'm getting a little ahead of myself. So I met my wife. She's from around there. One summer night, it was hot. We had the door open. We had the window open. And, sorry, my 4-year-old. So we're just relaxing. And out of nowhere, because there's a creek that just connects straight from the mountain to my father-in-law's area. He has a little cabin. And we were just relaxing, dozing off, and my wife and I, well, mainly me, I heard, like the classic Bigfoot yell, like just straight up when they're yelling. I'm not sure which one, where they just off in the distance you hear them like, ah, like.
I was going to ask you to describe that, because I've heard it. Will's heard it. We talk about it. It starts slow and it goes, and it's nothing else. Is that an accurate description?
Yes. I was laying there. All right, I was sitting there. I think we were playing Monopoly, and I just heard that, and I jumped up, boom, and I think I kind of went in defense mode, all out defense mode. I looked at her. I told her, "Where's your dad's guns?" I think I heard Bigfoot yelling out there. yelling outside. I was like, did you hear that? And she's all like, I don't think so. I was getting ready to roll. I was like, and I started, she pointed, like where her dad has, swords, nunchucks. And I finally got to the 22. I grabbed it, I loaded it, I looked at it, I was like, this is nowhere big enough. Does he have a spear? Because the creek in the mountain is just right there, probably like about 60 yards. So there's traffic that goes up in there. My father and my mother-in-law say that the dogs, every now and then the dogs, they start hiding and they smell something really, really, really stinky going up and down the creek. And they would hear yelling still to this day up around there. But that was my first time experiencing that yell. It just made me go back into the old days. But that was the first time I ever heard, the big guy yell, and the echo and everything was just pretty crazy. And 3 days, probably a week later, we went and visited my uncle, or not my uncle, my brother-in-law. He lives like about 5 miles up the road. This is right past the Utah border on that Navajo Mountain community. We went and visited him because we helped him out. He has no running water, so we have to go up to the foot of the mountain to the spring and get water for, to wash our clothes, dishes, food, drink, just what we need. Water is very precious, as you all know. And I went over there, I knocked on his door. I was like, where's your barrels? You want to cruise? Let's go up there. Let's go get some water. And he was just like, he was kind of standoffish, He was looking down. He had his shades on. He was all like, no, I'm not going to go. I don't feel like going today. I was like, why? What's wrong? And he's like, he looked at me and he's like, I seen something. I seen something the other 3 days ago. And then I brought him outside. I brought my wife, it's her brother, and he started opening up to us. It took a while. And I just knew that he's seen something that's going to be, pretty interesting. And sure enough, he finally told us that he went up there to get water. He went up there to get water with his barrels. He put one barrel underneath the spring, and I guess as he glanced over to his right, there's a waterfall. It's probably like about, 12 feet, 14 feet drop waterfall. So he looked over, and he said that he's seen a huge, hairy arm, like on the bottom of the waterfall, just swing its arm over where he can see. And yes, he's seen that first, and he's just like, what is that? That's not right. He went back to his right. He got his phone, and he walked out towards there, and he got his phone on his camera ready. And he was looking at the waterfall, and he looked across from the waterfall, probably like about 30 feet, and he noticed that there was a jet black, huge Bigfoot, he said. It was.
Well, unfortunately, we're going to have to stop the recording here for this episode, folks. The system stopped working. Don is coming back and doing another show, which will be episode 208. So stay tuned for that. So my apologies again for the system just kind of cutting out the way it did. But thanks for stopping by, everyone, and I hope you enjoyed this episode. And again, Don is going to be back for the next episode to finish talking to us. He's got quite a bit more to tell.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Creek Devil. If you or anyone you know has had an encounter with these creatures, please contact us at williamjevning@yahoo.com. That's William, Jevning, @yahoo.com. All communication is confidential. Join us for another program next week. And until then, keep your eyes open out there.